You have a wealth of experience not only in building your own business, but helping other people scale theirs. One of the things that I find is there are a lot of some of the same old challenges, but then there's also a lot of new ones. Are there certain things that you're seeing that are starting to stand out more to you now? What are some of those things?
Same challenges or maybe different challenges from then to now?
Just in general, like I'll give an example. One of the things I had someone ask me once was, "What's a timeless challenge that's not going anywhere?" And my response to that was the customer experience. Like, if you can't figure that part out, it doesn't matter what you have going on, you're still going to end up struggling. But I'll give you another example. Like now we have AI, so the entry point for entrepreneurship is a lot easier,
Mhm.
but it's doesn't change some of those challenges that people already have to figure out. They think that they can just drop something in like a chat GPT or a Claude and it'll give them the answers. But what is giving them the answers on are things that have already happened. And it's not necessarily giving them the insights on what to do in real time. So I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between having something where it can kind of plan out what's known, but it doesn't necessarily cover the unknown. And the unknown is where, you have to actually have someone that can kind of coach you or been through it before to really be able to kind of guide you through it and say, okay, here's the things that you can plan for. Here's some of the things that you can't plan for. And let me explain those to you so that you kind of have a better idea of what to do in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the core issues that's always been around and is going to continue to be around is credibility. And, whether it's, the 80s, 90s, the 20s, the 2040s, right?
Mhm.
You're all going to struggle with this issue of credibility. And honestly, I think it's going to get harder because, like you said, with AI and all of these various apps and systems that make it easier for people to get into an industry and to portray having the ability or the chops to do the thing, I think that a lot of people are going to come across those that look good, smell good, but ultimately they're broke and they can't really do the thing, right? They
Right.
good enough to get in the door, but not good enough to stay in the room. So, credibility beats hustle, right? And
Yeah.
systems outlast stress. I used to think that hustle was the ultimate answer until I burnt out, chasing broken processes. And that's when I realized
Mhm.
that, credibility beats hustle. And I started really focusing on creating systems that outlast and relieve me of the stress. When people trust you, you don't have to chase them, right? When
Absolutely.
your systems are solid, you don't have to stay in that survival mode that a lot of early entrepreneurs are in. So, I didn't really grow up with privilege. I grew up with pressure, a whole lot of
Understand.
pressure.
Understand.
And what saved me wasn't hustle. It was building the ability to do things, which over time lended to credibility and people
Mm.
trusting what I built and the systems that I created to keep that engine running, even when I was tired or even when I wasn't paying attention. And I think that is the issue in the past, and I think that's going to be the issue in the future. I think that a lot of people are coming in thinking that tools and new little tricks with AI, like you said, are going to save them. But when a customer or client has a problem that's not inside of the parameters of your little AI system, what happens, right? Do you fold? Does the whole house of cards come tumbling down? So I think that it's critical for people to focus on learning to do the thing and learning to do it well, producing products and services that are truly not only wanted and needed, but can stand the test of time. Because if you don't, you're going to spend enormous amounts of time and energy building something that will evaporate once, some kid in a garage builds a brand new app.
Absolutely. Yeah, you touched on some things that I try to explain to people. There's one of the things that I've been preaching more so lately is discernment. Because every time I log into a platform, it can be LinkedIn, it can be YouTube, everybody is an expert until you ask a follow-up question. And
Hmm.
then you ask the right follow-up question, and it's like pulling out a thread, and then next thing you know, they're not focusing on the question, they're focusing on trying to cover up all the things that you just exposed. So, it's actually a great segue into one of the things that I want to talk about because when we're talking about credibility, you've coached over 400 sales professionals. And, one of the things that we talked about was, there are similarities, but, sometimes people think the experience is different depending on where the decimal is in their bank accounts. There are some people that have more money and they'll look at them and say, "Oh, well, it was easy for them because they had the funds to be able to get started," and they use that as a reason to kind of slow them down because they say, "Well, I don't have the money, so I don't know if I can compete." One of the things that we talked about was it's there's an overlap as much as there is a difference, and those that do have the money, yes, they may have the funds to get started, but they don't have the necessary experience to be able to push them forward. So they have further to fall. And that's one of the things that I try to explain to people to go, just because someone has more money than you or more resources, it doesn't mean that you can't compete with them. And then vice versa, if you're someone that, like you said, sometimes they said sweat equity and all the rest of that. Like you can put in a lot of work, but if you don't have the competence and the credibility to be able to back it up and show that you're doing something with it, then it puts you into a situation where it doesn't matter how much you really put into it. You're always going to have a certain level of struggle attached to it. Entrepreneur has struggles regardless, but there's a difference between challenges and struggles. Challenges are things that you can overcome. Struggles are things that if you don't have a system, if you don't have something in place, you're going to have a problem. So, can you talk about like that credibility, what you were able to amass over those different conversations? 400 salespeople, you see things and you start to see the overlap and then you start to see patterns. And I believe that probably led into you creating systems that allow you to have the credibility because you see things and you're able to say, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. And you're able to kind of show people in those chaotic moments that you can be that calm in the storm.
Yeah, I think I've said it all the time, and ultimately, whenever I have these conversations, I end up with the thing, getting to the thing that nobody wants to hear. I have coached hundreds of people. I've hired and fired lots of people. And, for those that didn't find success or we had to let go, it was simply because usually it was ego, right? Their ego, not truly wanting to come to terms with the fact that failure is a part of success. It's a
Mhm.
critical part of success. Taking the no's and the rebuttals personally and seeing them saying no to your offer as a rejection of you as an individual.
Mhm.
And then, just avoidance of that because again, they see it as a personal attack or a reflection of them as an individual. So they start figuring out very creative ways to avoid actually picking up the phone and calling or, asking a person on the phone for the sale. Um, then it comes down to your ego and you figuring out how to get that in check because I had a mentor who was very wealthy, actually around those hip hop 101 days that told me
Mhm.
something that was, close to 20 years ago. Actually, it was around 20 years ago. And that always stuck with me. He said, Arius, you can feed your ego or you can feed your family, but you
Yeah.
usually can't feed both. Which
Yeah.
one's most important? And, he said a lot of things, but that was one of those things that really, really stuck with me. And, in sales and in business, that's critical,
Mhm.
right? Are you the one that's going to say, hey, this isn't working? I tried all these fancy ads and it's not working for me. Are you going to say, screw it? I'm just going to go knock on some doors. I'm business to business. I'm going to go find a local business park and I'm going to walk into every single business that I can. I'm going to risk being yelled at because they got their little no soliciting sign and go talk to somebody. I'm going to spend the next 10 days every day reaching out to 100 people online and putting it in a CRM to keep track of it and making sure I'm following up. I'm going to go to a networking event every single day for the next month until I get some clients, right? And, shake some hands, kiss some babies. It's that the thing that I always tell people is you need at least 100 pitches. And that's the thing that nobody wants to do, right? All of this, again, I run an agency, right? A marketing agency. We do social media, we do ads, but all of this digital stuff is all in service of finding you some people
Mhm.
to pitch. It's a rare entrepreneur that's built a substantial enough system that allows them to make significant amounts of money without any human touch point, right?
Yeah.
The All of these things are just to get people in front of you. You still have to talk to them. You still have to convince them that you're real, that you're credible, that you can
Mhm.
solve their problem, that you're not going to run away with their money. And, that's just to get in the door. Again, you got to stay in the room. So once you get their money,
Yeah.
you got to perform. You got to do the thing. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of entrepreneurs forget this and they utilize all of these things as an excuse and a crutch to not have to actually show up and look another man or woman in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to solve your problem and then do it. Right. And that's, again, that's the ego. right?
Mhm.
That's that I don't want to be the one on the hook. I don't want to be the one that's the, you
Yeah.
tell me no, or, you say yes, you give me the money, and then later I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And now
Mhm.
I got to we got to have a whole conversation, like man to man, woman to woman, whatever. Right. And that's the issue. And I think that is becoming increasingly an issue, starting with millennials, but I think Gen Z and
Oh God,
Gen
yeah.
Alpha, they're screwed because,
Yeah.
they already have problems with face-to-face communication anyway.
Mhm.
And hey, I'm not saying you can't do it if you guys are watching. I'm just saying I think that you're in a worse position. So yeah, I think that's what I've learned. I've learned that with all this fancy technology and stuff, you need to check your ego and you need to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the results, as long as it's legal.